That was Senator Elizabeth Warren last night at the DNC receiving a sustained standing ovation that lasted well over a minute. In her speech, she then laid out the stark character and policy contrasts between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And the Democratic senator of Massachusetts joins us now. I have to tell you, that was so moving. Crying right now watching it, but it's been such a long runway.
By the way,
to this moment.
Eddie was crying too.
Eddie was definitely crying.
Eddie was like, so much for the centrism. This is why I came. He was crying too.
So I'd love to know, Senator, what that was like for you. As I was saying, it's a really long runway to this moment, paved in part by you.
Well, it has been a long runway, but I stood there and all I could see was this huge room full of volunteers, of people who had taken their vacation time, spent their own money to come to Chicago because they got in a fight, because they don't want to see young people crushed by student loan debt, because they want gun safety, because they want us to deal with prescription drugs and make them affordable for people. I thought of this as a moment in democracy. I never thought I was going to run for public office, but I got into it because there are things I care about. And in a democracy, you have a chance to just raise your hand and say, I will get in this fight. Come on with me. And that's what people had done. And that was the moment last night, that there were so many people who said, we are in this fight together. We are in this fight to make change, and we are going to win and make those changes.
I think we all probably took something a little different out of that sustained applause that you got. I felt it was like this pent up, I won't say frustration because that's too negative of a word, but pent up energy for progressives,
Yes.
for the progressive cause. And it once again is underlined in this convention as Kamala Harris is firmly holding a place in the center of American politics. To me, progressives have done exactly what the base in Trump's Republican Party have not done. Progressives have been patient, they have been practical, they have been pragmatic, and they actually, forgive me for using Ronald Reagan's name here, in speaking of progressives, but Reagan's attitude was, if I get 70%, if I get 75% of what I need, I don't consider that a loss. And I've been blown away throughout Biden's administration and even this convention that progressives have said, we're in it to win it. And I felt last night was that eruption was for you and for progressives across America that say, we're here.
Yeah, because we are in it to make the changes that America wants us to make. It's so easy for people to kind of get into this whole centrism and progressive. The reality is the things that we are fighting for are the things that are popular in America. We talk about things like gun safety. Golly, 90% of Americans want to see us make change. And it's not just Democrats, it's Democrats, independents, Republicans. We want to see child care. 2 out of every 3 Americans say, yeah, this is crazy that we are a nation that doesn't make it possible for parents to be able to go to work and know that their kids have safe, affordable child care. And you can just do this issue through issue, and the issues we're still fighting for. We have got to make major investments in housing. We need more housing in this country, housing for everyone. We need to make change as a nation, and we are ready to do it. We're not going to stand on the sidelines and say, oh, should have done it this way, could have done it that way. We're going to say we're willing to get in the fight. We're willing to take how hard it is and the bumps and the bruises and to just keep pushing forward and make the changes that this nation needs. That's what we're going to do.
And Eddie, how right the senator is that often what's branded as far left and progressive is right in the middle of where so many Americans are. Like, for instance, Tim Walz is being attacked as a communist, as a socialist. Why? Because he wanted hungry kids in Minnesota to have breakfast and lunch at school. Kamala Harris being called a communist, a socialist, a communist, because she wants to make it easier for younger Americans to get that first house, which they cannot get now. They are shut out of the American dream that we grew up with. And so Kamala Harris is saying, let's see what we can all do together so younger Americans can get that first home. That ain't socialism. That is pragmatic politics that a lot of Americans support.
You know, Joe, you're absolutely right. Sometimes these labels get in the way of the underlying values that we all share. That we all share. And sometimes, you know, we find ourselves, defending ideology as if it's just pure when we're all complicated. One minute I may sound like I'm on the far left. The next minute I might sound like T.S. Eliot, depending on what we're talking about, right? So it's really an indication of how complex everyday ordinary people are, right, and how these labels try to box us in. Senator Warren, I was so delighted to see you last night. I was smiling from ear to ear like a chess cat, as we would say in Mississippi. Now, what do we need? Joe is absolutely right. We're in it to win it, given what we know's on the other side. What do we need to do down ballot to ensure that we implement the agenda if we win it? So talk a little bit about those down ballot races, Senator Warren.
So thank you for raising that. Look, we focus on the top. That's the most important thing. We've got to get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz elected. But next, she's got to have a Senate. And that means a majority in the Senate. We've got to get our Democrats across the line, defend every seat. Hope you saw Colin Allred last night. He's looking good down there in Texas. We need a Democratic Senate. Just 2 words, Supreme Court. We need a Democratic Senate so that we can start to pass some of these laws. Same things on the House side. But also, it's down ballot races everywhere. You know, one of the things about this convention is how many people I talked to who got into politics over a single issue. They got into it because something had happened to them, someone they loved, and they were determined that they wouldn't be denied an opportunity to get their prescription drugs, or that we would have better gun safety laws. But now that they're in it, they've run for school board, they've run for city council, they've run for mayor, they've run for state assemblies. We need to vote up and down the ballot, and there's some data to suggest Republicans do vote up and down the ballot. That is, they look, they see the R designation and say they're in. Democrats say, you know, I'm not sure I know that person on down the line. Let me tell you what you know. You know that they're a Democrat, and you know they're fighting for your family. And that's good enough for us to pull together and to vote in our Democrats at the very top and all the way up and down that ballot. That is how we're going to make real change. We make it at the federal level, we make it at the state level, we make it at your city level, we make it down at the precinct level. That's what we're fighting for.
I want to ask you about the explosion that is Kamala Harris's candidacy. You've run a presidential campaign. Yep. You've seen her in action from many different angles in the Senate as well. Did you see this coming?
You know, it's a hard question in this sense. No, I mean it in this sense. Who could have predicted anything about what's happened in the last month? I'm with you. And yet, I have known Kamala for nearly 14 years. And I have known that Kamala is extraordinary. Remember, when I first got to know Kamala was during the housing crash, when I used to come talk to you all, during the housing crash. And what had happened was that these banks that had broken the law, cheated people, were stealing their homes. Kamala was Attorney General. I was setting up the CFPB. And I remember the very first phone call we ever had was about a deal that was on the table. And Kamala said, not good enough. These guys broke the law, and we need to hold them accountable. And I thought at that moment, this woman is special. We're going to have some fun together. And for 14 years now, I have just seen that reinforced again and again and again. She is an extraordinary person. And she meets this moment for America. We are so lucky to have her.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We'll see you soon. Take care.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.